Y'all probably made a mistake. You give a preacher's son a microphone, tell him to go about 15, 20 minutes. He may be in trouble. But I want to thank all of you for showing up today. I want to thank all of you for what you've done so far. My life has truly been blessed. This has been an interesting year so far. And sitting up listening to Bob, and come election night, we're going to have a lot of good stories. A lot of folks said to have this room this full here in East Texas would be a farce, not possible. And I'm just going to just be honest with you. When I thought I would run for this race, some folks thought it was a good thing. They wants to help out. That's fine. But we don't know about this. So a lot of folks will be saying that by the end of November too, after we win. But before I really get into any remarks, and let me just recognize some folks who will pass you up. It's not a problem. Let me tell you why I think we're going to win this race. And not this race, but we're going to win a lot of races throughout East Texas. It's because we got good leadership. I'm kind of, some people may say I'm an elitist, but I am sort of kind of opposite. I think success does begin at the top. And I've had the opportunity to sit in the same room with two fine gentlemen like Representative Christian, Representative Dan Flynn, and sit and listen to them on substantive issues. Got an $18 billion revenue shortfall coming up, and they put it out and say we can do it without raising taxes, we can do it by being smarter and being more efficient and making tough decisions. And I'm proud and honored and blessed to have the opportunity to work with two fine gentlemen like that. I'm very blessed and honored to have a county chair here in Angelina County, Bob Flournoy. Coming from living in Harris County, a Republican in Harris County, you know what it means to have a strong county chair, what that means to have a strong county chair leadership. And I know what that means. And I've come to respect Bob's leadership. The reason for this right here is not because of James White. It's because Bob Flournoy dragged me down in the office 2-3 times over the last 2 weeks, sat down with a yellow tablet and said, okay, this is what we have to do, this is what we're going to do. I want this to be like this, I want this to be like this. Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. I got out of the way. And I went and campaigned, and he took over this thing, and this is why it's like it is today. And Bob, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for your guidance. My county chair, Mike Patty, not only a good friend and a good chair, he is a fellow colleague in education. And I want to thank him. I remember about this time, I dropped this on him up at the Texas Star Cafe. Someone else likes that restaurant. At the Texas Star Cafe. And Mike said, well, redistricting's coming up. And yeah, we're going to have to do something. But, Jim McReynolds, he's pretty tough. Let me tell you about that. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time today talking about Jim McReynolds, and don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about where he stays, where he lives. Because I think East Texans are more concerned about keeping their own house versus where McReynolds is living. But with that said, I was sitting in a meeting, while I was listening to him speak in the meeting. This is what he said. He said, redistricting is not about R's and D's. Your R's should stand for rural, and your D's should stand for dirt. And that's kind of like his comeback on that. And I kind of agree with him on that to a certain extent. But I think your R should stand for runaway, and your D should stand for disappear in Oklahoma. Okay? I think that too. So we need to keep that in mind. Politics is serious business. And I came in this race not expecting anything, not expecting any sure outcome. But back in October, when it looked like Obama was going to run the table, In the back of my mind, I had the idea that the American people, and East Texans especially, aren't stupid. And Bob took two of my speech lines. I was going to do one on two visions and one on independence. You came up and did both of them in one speech. You know? But Bob is right. What is this spirit that you see here in East Texas? And it's the same spirit that we had about 234 years ago in 1776. Much as times have changed, the grievances haven't changed any. The situation really hasn't changed any. Then as now, we have a national government that's engaged in big spending, profligate spending. It wants to relegate our children to future generations to a financial bondage, as Americans did over 2 centuries ago. They had a series of taxes: Sugar Act, Stamp Act, Revenue Act, Tea Act. And it was an attempt to punish the most productive Americans. And when we look at it today, government has a string of taxes: income tax, gross margins tax, sin taxes, sales tax, excise tax, healthcare tax. And it seems like it's only one reason to do all that. Government seems to have this thirst for the people's wealth in order to buy the votes. You already own the people are already the government, and then the government comes and tries to get you to sell yourself out. And then we look at property rights. Leading into 1776, they had this thing called the Quartering Act, where the government could take over your house and house soldiers. We see today that we have a government that has a contempt for property rights, with such schemes as the Texas Transporter, perversions to the power of eminent domain, the excessive valuations by appraisal districts. So, as then, in 1776, where Americans were swearing their allegiance to a government, you know, we had Americans then on the frontier regions, the border states, the border colonies. And they were neglected. Today, we have a national government that not only neglects its sovereign duty to secure its international borders, but it joins with foreign governments to sue its citizens for doing what it arrogantly refuses to do. The Coercive Acts in 1774 were just a bunch of regulations. It was like the EPA and the OSHA then. Just a bunch of regulations to harass the people, trample over their constitutional rights, strangle the entrepreneurial spirit. And during that colonial era, Americans faced a threat to their ultimate means to confront tyranny when the British soldiers marched to Concord and Lexington to get the guns. A lot of people were happy the other week when the Supreme Court ruled that Chicago's gun control law was unconstitutional. Everybody was happy. I wasn't too happy. 5-4?
Right.
5-4? You mean one vote? And I teach high school. My kids in high school, they get it.
That's right.
They get the Second Amendment. It's an individual and a collective right. But some of the best legal minds in the country, 5-4, I think that's a reason to get alarmed. In the colonial period, we showed our allegiance to a national government in London. But here's a sort of different thing, and I think Bob alluded to this. The different thing then is you had state, well then local, colonial governments that wanted to stand between the individual rights of the people and the national government. We don't really have that now. We have a situation now where state governments and local governments are willing to roll over